Well, hello, friends. This is Donna Reiners. It's so nice to see you, and I bless you today. I'm very, very thankful to be here, honestly, and I'm glad that you're here because I'm thinking about you. And the thought I've been hearing all week long has been overwhelm. And then I had some real strong confirmation recently regarding people dealing with overwhelm. So I'm just going to lay down the smack and tell you, what is overwhelm? Overwhelm is when you or I allow our emotions or our body to choose a pathway for us, basically overriding common sense, overriding what's real versus emotional or mental circumstances that really truly want to rule and reign our lives. So listen, we're from a spiritual space, and I am just telling you right now, if you and I do not choose the pathway of being overwhelmed by love versus overwhelmed by our circumstances, let me tell you something. We're going to be sick. We're going to be tired. We're going to be confused. We're going to feel like we're emotionally wrung out. We might even go into physical pain because we are letting that reality, that looks real, become our reality. And we have to choose. And look, it's difficult. Listen, my sister was over here earlier today, and do you know we have this camera that helps us see what's happening in our houses, and she saw that our other sister was on the floor and she was out of here lickety split. Listen, that's overwhelming. You know, it's overwhelming if you allow it to be so real that that's your gauge, that your decisions are made from surrounding an emotionally charged situation. And that's a real thing. Seeing your sister on the floor, come on, that's real, because she can't get up on her own. So as soon as my sister got over there, her neighbors, thank goodness, were home, and they helped her pick her up and get her situated so that she feels safe and that she's okay. Now, our older sister, she's in a tough spot. You know, she's in a tough spot. It's been a minute, and she's been through some very, very, very strong challenges, strong situations that could have caused her to give up, to say, I'm out of here, to be gone from this planet. But listen to me. That sister, I think sometimes maybe we think maybe it's because her memory's not as sharp, but honestly, she made a decision years and years and years ago not to allow sickness, not to allow her circumstances, not to allow what's happening to her to rule and reign her mind. Because let me tell you something, if she had not done that, she would be extremely overwhelmed today. And my other sister, who's been walking out life with her for the last 25 years as a person caring for her needs, because she is her legal caregiver, if she had not along the way found peace in the midst of pieces, if she had not along the way figured out how to row that boat, she would be extremely overwhelmed. And so at the same time, are there physical things that have risen up because the central nervous system and the mind is like, oh my God, what's next? Sure. But when you come to that, you have to make a new decision, not to let it be your real. You cannot let it be your REEL for your life. And you cannot let it be so real to your mind that it overwhelms your thoughts and overwhelms your physical self and overwhelms your finances and overwhelms your circumstances, or it will. It will. So, you know now, I don't know how old you are watching this, but 30 years ago, meditation wasn't that popular. It was seen more like a hippie thing. But now it's common. I don't know that you could ever meet somebody now that wouldn't know what meditation is, or wouldn't have some kind of thought and idea of breathing in and breathing out, and this thing called breath work. Those type of methods are actually real when it comes to your physical body. They are real in helping you manage overwhelm, helping you manage stress, helping you tell your body a different narrative, to tell your body a different story, so that the story that's happening doesn't become, again, real, so that that's the only pathway your mind takes, or that's the only pathway your emotions take, or that's the only pathway your physical body takes. So what is overwhelm? Overwhelm is when everything is freaking going cattywampus and you're like, what the freaking heck do I do? And what is it not? Listen, it won't overwhelm you when you tell your body and you tell your mind and you tell your emotions a different narrative, because your body, your mind, and your emotions, they don't know anything different. So you can have the whole world going to hell in a handbasket right outside your door, and even though your subconscious may be extremely clear on what's happening, you get to have the final say by telling a narrative inside of you that is completely diabolically different than the narrative that's happening right outside you. So the same thing inside your physical circumstances. If you can allow your mind to have a different story, and some of you might be thinking, well, what the heck? I don't get it. This is really what's happening in my life. If you spend all your time justifying your emotions, and you spend all your time inside of you reinforcing your story over and over and over and over and over again, you are going to get that story in your mind, your emotions, your physical body, and it will reinforce it in your circumstances. And if you don't have crap going on in your circumstances, you're sure going to invite some, and you're going to attract some crap in your circumstances, and it's going to just get worse. And that is what is so interesting about overwhelm. I want to share a couple of stories. One really strongly came to mind while I was sharing. Years ago, I'll share something relevant now, but I'll share something that years ago, when I was, in my 30s. I was in a training with a group of people, and honestly, that training, you had to climb a telephone pole, and your job was to get on top of it and stand on top of that telephone pole. I mean, talk about unnerving, right? If you're afraid of heights or whatever. And while I was on the way up the pole, there was a phone call for me, and the phone call told me that my dad was gonna die. Listen, when you get news like that, the first instinct many times is to panic. But for whatever reason, I was in a season of listening and a season of stability on the inside, even though my outside was really, really screwed up, honestly. My finances were screwed up. My emotions were screwed up. My mind was screwed up. My relationships were screwed up. Everything was basically screwed up. I'm just telling you. But my insides were really embracing peace. And so this was so interesting. So what happens when you got this overwhelmed feeling around you? Everybody's overwhelmed. Everybody's overwhelmed, and everybody who's overwhelmed wants you overwhelmed, because if you're not acting overwhelmed when they're overwhelmed, they're wondering what the heck's wrong with you, or they're wondering, well, don't you give a crap, and don't you care about me, and why aren't you upset, and all those things. See? And so almost to the top, this phone call came, and I knew right that moment I had the decision: am I going to crawl down the pole, and am I going to go home and to be a part of that situation, which was about a 2-hour drive, or am I going to remain and I'm going to stand? And I really, truly, I just stood there on that pole for just a couple minutes, and got still in midair to really just to think. And do you know, inside of me, I really felt like my dad was not going to die. But in all the circumstances that were happening at the hospital, and all the opinions of medical, and the overriding emotional trauma from family, it was strong. Did they want me to come home? They did want me to come home. So I had that going on too. It's like, oh my God, what's my family going to think of me if I don't go home? Well, what are they going to think about me? Right? But my insides had peace. Not the peace that, oh, it's okay. It wasn't that kind of peace. It was a peace deep inside, that deep inside place where I just knew that I 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 knew it was going to be okay. And I honestly just did not see my dad dying. I really, truly felt like he wouldn't die. But that was not clear. It was not evidence in this circumstantial thing that he wouldn't die. It looked like he really would. But I had to decide for me, what am I going to do? What am I going to do in this circumstance? Who am I going to be in this circumstance? Am I going to respond to fear, which was what it was? It was like, oh my God, your dad's dying. You got to go home. I mean, that was how it felt in my brain. That was the narrative. That was the story that was bombarding me all the way up a telephone pole. And I just had to choose peace. And that was, now listen, at the same time, hear me. If I felt like he was going to die, I still needed to have the pathway of peace. It wasn't based on the circumstances of living or dying. That wasn't the peace. The peace was, how am I going to respond to this news? How am I going to respond to all these elements that are outside of my control? What am I going to do? What am I going to say? What is my part? What is not my part? I had to choose. And we all get to choose, but my insides were, it's going to be okay. But again, bombarded with, well, what's your family going to think? They're going to think you don't give a crap. What are the people around here going to think that are watching you? You know, because I'm in a leadership position. What are they going to think about you, that you're deserting your family? You're not going to go respond to them? What's wrong with you? So there's a voice inside that we have to align ourselves with to have that energy that we're called to have that relationship with ourselves that we should have, that should remain in peace at all times, no matter what. And listen, this is difficult stuff. This is not easy stuff. This is difficult stuff. This is why I have training that I work out with y'all and help you with, especially when I do some of the 3 to 5 day trainings workshops where I help you work through emotions so you can learn how to stay in peace in the midst of pieces. How to be sane in the midst of insanity around you or insanity inside you. And so I moved forward, and my dad did not die. I did remain, and I stayed for the training, and I didn't go home. And he pulled through, and it was okay, and he didn't die for quite some time. Like, not even that year, you know. It was a season before he passed away. But what if I'd panicked and headed home on a panic, missed this time of training? It was a new job. Missed the time with the people that I was supposed to be in community with. What if I had chosen the fear? I really would have missed out on some things that later I'm so glad I was there for. So that is one way how to handle overwhelm. Recognizing emotionally, is it fear? Is it opinions? Is it circumstances? Are there diagnoses being thrown at you either from the outside or from the inside? Are there things happening to you to cause you to trip and fall or trip and stumble so that you slow down so much that you wonder whether you should live or die? You know, emotionally or mentally. So just a few things you can physically do. First of all is remember that, I know some of y'all are going to think this is nuts, but if you make those emotional turns your reality, then that's why they're going to be your reality. Otherwise, they don't have to be your reality. How do we know this? Because we have heard stories of people that have been in prison for many, many years, that in their minds they golfed every day for years and years and years, and then they worked their way staying fit or what have established routines early on. There's stories of people like Corrie ten Boom that was in circumstances that were extremely detrimental, where it was a threat on her life all the time. You know, there are stories of people's lives that were usually in much more critical spaces than we're in. And they're an example of how we can respond to life. It starts with listening. It starts remembering that you're loved and loving yourself so that you choose peace instead of pieces. Because even if you choose pieces, whatever's going on, your response to that in that circumstance will be healthier, will be have more clarity if you're at peace instead of losing it and getting emotionally charged no matter what the circumstance. No matter what. Listen, no matter what. And those are strong words, but no matter what. Finding peace. And another thing came to my mind. This is in the 90s, actually. I was at a gas station, and I was getting gas. And I noticed out the corner of my eye that there was a car parked, cattywampus, and I thought to myself, I wonder how they're getting gas. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't look right. But I kept moving. I kept getting gas. And I felt this thought and this idea and this voice say to me, turn and walk away from the car. And me thinking I hear voices all the time, what did I do? I just continued and said inside myself, I'll be finished in just a second. And I kept filling up my tank. And I heard again, turn and walk away from the car. And I knew instinctively what it meant. It meant stop doing the gas and literally turn and walk away from the car and walk this other direction. Again, I still had not pieced together that something was going on that was not correct. I didn't know still. And then I felt my heart just start beating, just, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I heard a thought, stay where you are, don't move. And within just a couple of seconds, I see there's a man right here, and he has a revolver, and he's put it up to my head, and he says, give me the keys to your car. And me, listen, I don't know what's wrong with me to have been so level-headed here, but I'm like, sure. And I took them out of my pocket, handed him the keys, and he said, thank you. And I said, you're welcome. And I literally didn't ask permission. I jumped over the gas thing, you know, the tube that held the gas. jumped over it, and I walked calmly but strongly into the front. And now they've got my car keys, my purse, and all that jazz in the car, and they've taken off. And so I'm going in. I said, "Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me." That gentleman, and I say that loosely, literally said all this, just stole my car. And of course, they got on the horn. They got on the phone. They must have had this before, even though we were 2 blocks from the police station. That they must have had this before because they were on the phone with the police just like that, and the police were going after them just like that. And it took a season actually for them to find them, but it was actually a ring of people that stole cars for parts, and they were taking my car for parts. So anyway, this has nothing to do with that, except that what if I had panicked? What if I'm like, what? I mean, what if I just been a mess when they put the revolver? What if I had acted foolishly or created drama right that moment out of a panicked state versus remaining calm? I mean, who knows what they would have done with that gun? I don't know. Also, from a current place, I have a few ducks in the water right now, and I have some businesses that I'm working. You know, most of you know I do have a direct sale business, one that I work, and it has been a blessing to help people with their health, and it's just I've worked with them for 3.5 years in December, and it's just phenomenal. But I also have my coaching business that I stopped when I started the direct sales, that I picked up again and moved back into the coaching industry to help women again, like this, to help them stay sane in the midst of crazy, whether it be through removing their trauma locally or remotely, or just help coaching them through the emotional craziness that comes when there's pieces. And I also have another one that's a little different, that's really a business model for something else to help people save money and that kind of thing. Again, none of these are direct sales. None of these are multi-level marketing companies, except for the one direct sales company that I use to help people with their wellness. And I've been training as a practitioner with a company to help people with their biogenetic biofield and help their bodies find wellness also with their terrain. So there's just a lot going on, right? And so every so often I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I thinking? Every so often I have to breathe in and out and remind myself, wait, I'm okay. Donna, you're okay. I have to tell myself, Donna, you're okay. I go and I look myself in the mirror. Where's my mirror? I have my mirror here. I go look myself in the mirror and say, Donna, you're okay. You're going to be okay, and you're already okay. I tell myself this. Sometimes when I'm in that space, I tell myself this multiple times. Why? Because overwhelm is wanting to make me panic. It's wanting me to become distraught. It's wanting me to be so in fear that I want to stop doing what I'm doing, even though all these things work together in the direction I'm taking. They all work together. Now, if I were like a medical doctor or something, I'd probably have all those tools in my office and I'd be serving people and I'd have people working for me and all those things, but I'm not. So instead, I have tools and modalities that I use through my coaching business instead. Like I said, remote as well as locally. But I still have to use my voice. I still have to talk to myself. I still have to tell myself, chill out, Donna Mae. Just chill it out. Sometimes I just have to really go outside and take a walk in the sunshine. Sometimes I have to go sit and just lay. Sometimes I'll get a towel, lay it on my cement porch, and just lay there and go, okay, you're okay. Of course, I'm not there long because we have ants. So I get my butt up. But my premise is I enjoy the sun. So I retreat to the sun, even though I live in Texas and it gets super hot. I retreat to the sun and it just recharges me. It renews me. My biofield needs the sun, you know. My body needs all that. That's a grounding place for me, especially if I'm on the grass and not the cement. Anyway, I just want to encourage you today that you're only overwhelmed if you allow yourself to tell yourself over and over and over and over and over again you're overwhelmed, because it will throw you into a crazy loop and it'll keep you there, and you'll be programmed to be overwhelmed no matter what's happening with you, and you'll stay in pieces. Or you can begin to back it up, begin to make new decisions, begin to breathe in and breathe out, and remind yourself, wait, I don't have to do this. Wait, I can take a deep breath and I can tell myself a different story, and I can take a different pathway so I don't have my future the same as my past. And if you do that over and over and over and over again, you're going to find yourself in a new situation, treading a new pathway that you're unfamiliar with. But if you'll stay on that long enough where you stay in peace, the pieces that you've been used to will get so far behind you that you'll forget eventually that they were a part of you. The stench of them will be far away, which is what you want eventually, right? So love yourself today. If you fill your mind with lots of negative things or fearful things or anxious things, and always reinforcing things that aren't necessarily the truth, or what's going to come to pass, or what you think's going to come to pass may not come to pass. So you might as well just drop it and create a new future for yourself, one thought at a time. I bless you. This is Donna. I hope this helped you. I'd love to hear from you if it did. It's always an honor, always a blessing to encourage you and to help you move forward in life and in love. Until soon. Bye.